Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time. The 10-minute deep dive into Yokoso, Watashi wa Soul Society. Sosuke Aizen. So like last time, we're going to start off with Sosuke Aizen's personality, his history, then we'll move into his Zanpakuto. Normally I would do points of growth, but Aizen is kind of the same mind from start to finish. Selfish, but progressive. Chapter 79 is Sosuke Aizen's first appearance. He is an unassuming, generic-looking, kind Shinigami, and a captain at that. He is admired by a lot of people in Soul Society, especially by Momo, who we will get to later. But underneath all of that kind exterior, he is an extremely intelligent, cunning mastermind who will sacrifice anyone and anything to get to his goal. Everyone around him is disposable or just a stepping stone towards his goal. Although he appears to care greatly about him, he could care less, literally could care less. What is his end goal? Well, he spent the better part of 100 years planning out the dethrone or the usurping of the Soul King. He strongly believed that the Soul King ruled with no purpose and that everyone just blindly followed him, which led him to hate the Soul Society. How can they just blindly follow this mannequin with no goal? He is driven by his own hubris, and he sees himself as above everyone else, which is why he wishes to stand above everyone and everything else. Now, one thing that's interesting is while he is being sealed at the end of the fight with Ichigo by Urahara, Aizen yells at him saying, how can you blindly follow this thing with you being so intelligent? And this is the first real time we see Aizen being very emotional. Before, he was cold and callous, but he was losing, which is not good in his eyes. Losing is beneath him. But he's also an incredibly good manipulator. He was speaking to Renji that he felt that Rukia's assassination was not justified and how Renji felt about it. This was stirring the pot, getting Aizen exactly what he wanted, the entire Soul Society fighting against each other. Then there was the big reveal, where you see Sosuke Aizen apparently killed. This was all a part of his plan, dysregulation in the Soul Society, allowing him, already having the Yokoku, to proceed to further his plan. Now, throughout the entire Soul Society arc, he was chill, he was trustworthy, he was kind, and I definitely fell for the trap, and I was beginning to really respect Aizen for who he was. I had already put him in the category of that really quiet, nerdy guy that can be strong when he needs to, but wants to protect everyone. That's where I had him, which is literally the exact opposite of what he actually is. And he was so good at hiding it. Now, the cool thing is when he was apparently killed, that con extended past the pages of the manga, fooling the reader as well. Seriously ask yourself, how shocked were you when you saw his dead body pinned to the side of that building? The blood dripping down? It was quite shocking. Meanwhile, this whole time that Aizen was fooling you, the Central 46 had already been killed by him. It was Aizen's idea to move Rukia's execution back and use the Sokyokyu for the execution. Did you know he even manipulated everyone to think that it was Gin that killed him? Especially Momo. This is how deep his influence goes. In chapter 173, he lets Renji know that he trained Momo so deeply that she could not live without him. What do they call a male yandere? So much so to the point that when he came back out, stating that he wasn't dead, she wasn't even angry. She just fully believed that he was alive again. But I think the most pivotal part of his character, letting you know 100% what he is when he kills Momo. He will discard anyone he's used like garbage. And he has no remorse or conscience. He orchestrated all of this just so he can get the Hyogoku that was in Rukia's body. But let's go back to the turn back the pendulum arc. And everything but the rain, because we need that information. These are all very important for his carefully constructed plan that leads him to where he wants to go. So let's go to turn back the pendulum. About 100 years prior during this event, he was the vice captain to Shinji. And at the time he was making his own Hyogoku, but after feeding hundreds and hundreds of hollows to it, it wasn't evolving. But he found out that Urahara was working on one. It wasn't complete, but it was better than his. So he wanted to merge it with his Hyogoku. Now, the reason Urahara was doing it because he wanted that Shinigami to make their power stronger against hollows. Because what does the Hyogoku do? It does several things. On top of it, the fact that it's continuously evolving, it blurs the lines between Shinigami and hollows. allowing one race to obtain the powers of another. It senses the desires of all those around it and brings to light and reality the deepest desires of a person's heart, which led to the hollowification experiment, in which all the Vizards become hollows, or at least a hollowification. Aizen was able to blame this on Urahara Kisuke, banning him to the mortal plane, or the mortal world in Karakura Town. Now, since the Hyogoku cannot be destroyed, Urahara buried it within, he deactivated it and buried it within Rukia. However, it was Aizen that sent Rukia to watch over Karakura Town. He also sent the Vischer D Hollow to take out Ichigo's family. See, he treats Ichigo like his little experiment because he is literally the narrative for most of the events, if not all the events, all of the fights that Ichigo undergoes, drastically increasing his abilities, Ichigo's abilities. Why was he doing this? Well, because he knows the rarity of Ichigo's birth. So that might be a little asset for him later down. Pure cinema. Now let's cut to everything but the rain, because these are really important events. Ichigo actually asks Aizen, when did you know that I was going to be so special? To which Aizen replies, the moment you were born, I knew you were special. Now, after the hollification process, sometime after that, Aizen becomes a captain. At the same time, Ichigo's father is a captain. Now, Isshin was out looking for these missing Shinigami. Aizen creates a hollow called White. Now, Aizen, Gin, and Tosen sit back and watch Isshin fight this creation called White. Now, they want to see this for themselves, so they put on Reiatsu blocking cloaks and they go and check it out. And during the fight, Aizen slashes Isshin in the back, leaving him unable to use his Bankai. Now, what makes White different, a different creation from the other hollows that Aizen created, is that White was created with the soul of a Shinigami. Unfortunately, Misaki joins the battle to try and protect Isshin, Misaki being a Quincy. Now, Tosen was going to go kill her, but Aizen was like, wait, bro, let me see what happens. He wants to see if White will turn a Quincy into a hollow. That would be kind of interesting. And Misaki lets it come up and bite her in the shoulder so she can shoot it at point-blank range, which was pretty ballsy. And it turns out later that Tosen would discover that White was successful in turning Misaki into a hollow. This made Aizen very interested because he knew at Ichigo's birth that he was a child of a Quincy and a Shinigami, but a Quincy that underwent hollification. And he orchestrated everything in Ichigo's life, down to the point where Fishbone D came to attack, forcing Ichigo to become a substitute Shinigami. Now, this is for a different episode, but we also see White inside Ichigo. And he comes out during the fight with Byakuya. That's a different story. But at least now, after you know all of this, you understand why he behaves the way he does. This is where he goes to the Hueco Mundo and sets up his espada. So now we get to the point where Ichigo defeats Aizen. Now, it was this point that Aizen's arrogance stopped him from basically manipulating Ichigo's life, letting him see where he gets to with his own growth. And where he gets to far exceeds his own. So much so that Ichigo is about to perform the coldest thing I've ever seen in anime, where in the middle of a monologue, Ichigo grabs his face and pushes him hundreds of miles away from people. So you see, it was his own arrogance that was his downfall. Not just the final Getsugo Tensho, not just Urahara Kisuke. His arrogance was the first domino that brought him down. So now let's get into his Zanpakuto, Kyokusoi Getsu. Now, we don't know a lot about the Zanpakuto, but what we do know is that it's exceedingly broken with its broken ability. Kyokusoi Getsu, Mirror Flower Water Moon, yes, that sounds a lot like Ichigo's because Kubo meant them to be kind of like a dichotomy or opposite kind of thing. Activated by the word shatter. What it does is not a hypnosis. It is complete control over all opponents' 5 senses. It's so powerful, it manipulates what the opponent sees, smells, hears, touches, and tastes. Originally, for it to work, the opponent needs to see the Shikai release. And it works, even if the opponent has seen it one time. And it doesn't matter how long ago you saw it, it will still work. And I need to repeat this, nothing can be done to fight off the influence of Kyokusoi Getsu. He made it appear to the whole society that the Central 46 was still alive for a long time. After he absorbed the Hyogoku, it absorbed his Zanpakuto, letting him use Kyokusoi Getsu whatever he wanted. It became so powerful it worked against Yhwach Almighty, without him knowing about it. The weakness used to be if you touched the blade, the effect wouldn't work anymore. Not so anymore. We don't know what Aizen's Bankai is. Relatively, he never really needed it. But who knows, maybe it'll evolve and we'll see it finally come to fruition. But for now, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this 10-minute deep dive into Sosuke Aizen. Favorite this and repost it. Do anything you can to get its attention. Comment. I love you guys. Stay tuned for the next one. I hope you enjoy these.